Chapter 61 Heart Upgrade, Pursuit and Interception. You are listening at novelfull.audio. You bravely attack Hideki, the evil god Sek's little ringleader, and gain a random skill from him, Earth Escape, Earth Style Slope, Entry, C. You bravely fight back against a genin trying to hurt you, and gain a random skill from him, Earth Release, Rock Stealing Stick, Entry, C. You bravely fight back against enemies who want to harm you, and they can't put up a fight. The counterattack is stronger and the reward is a critical hit. Due to the special equipment, Earth Resentment you Heart, Earth, the ninjutsu skills gained are converted into Heart Upgrade Progress. Current progress, Wind, 6%, Fire, 52%, Thunder, 0%, Water, 88%. The swordsmanship acquired from the Gorenin group is integrated into Basic Swordsmanship in the Ninja World, Proficient, detailed explanation available. Another load of pop-up notifications flashed before my eyes. Uchiha Ci gave the ninja sword in his hand a few quick practice swings, discovering that his grip, which had previously been awkward, was suddenly much more natural. Basic swordsmanship of the ninja world is the foundation of all swordsmanship in this world. It includes IAI. Tangju, straight down cut from overhead, round chop, cassock chop, diagonal right cut, reverse cassock, diagonal left cut, left cross cut, right cross cut, left upward cut, right upward cut, and headwind, from bottom to top, plus basic moves like thrusting. By practicing this, you'll gain some proficiency in swordsmanship styles like Cloud style, Konoha style, and Uchiha style down the line. There wouldn't be a repeat of that embarrassing attack on Kakuzu, where he had trouble wielding the sword because he didn't know any sword techniques at all, resulting in that first missed swing. Uchiha glanced at the explanation and had an epiphany. So, that's how it works. His powerful brick-flying sword technique might finally be retired. The heart upgrade progress is just the level of chakra attribute cultivation, because fire and water are the two main attributes with high proficiency, and most ninjas from Yuno country know water escape ninjutsu. The starting progress is a little higher. The wind release is likely just a tiny bit because of that wind release, sky jumping extreme wave he'd used earlier. From this, it shouldn't be too hard for Uchiha Ci to get his physical attributes back, especially the fire attribute. To be honest, he missed that fire escape chakra mode so much. It was the ultimate self-defense weapon. Besides, when he was thinking clearly and his physical condition was holding up, he could control the forbidden art and physical transformation to regenerate a real heart. Then he could think about swapping out this ridiculous earth-type heart, but right now, he only had one shot with the forbidden technique, physical transformation. Uchiha Ci had already decided to save that one for the evil god cult leader. Support from the evil god cult would be here soon. Uchiha just sighed at the rising stream of subtitles. Once he had a general idea of the skills he'd picked up, he stopped paying attention to them. He immediately grabbed ninja tools from the broken wall, and swiped the ninja tool pouches from the ninjas lying on the ground, or pretending to be, but before he could finish looting, a wave of dark figures showed up. Uchiha stood up straight and narrowed his eyes. 12 members of the evil god cult stood before him, dressed in occult standard black robes with high collars and waists, each with a leather scripture box strapped to their forearms. They surveyed the messy scene, their eyes turned cold, and they extended their hands. At the same time, they drew the evil god cult's signature ninja tool, a dark spear, and pointed it at Uchiha Ci. The leader of the cult elite, like an emotionless robot, asked, flatly, "Did you do this?" Ugh. Uchiha Ci made an annoyed sound because the F key had been interrupted during the cut scene. He immediately composed himself, revealing a stone-faced expression. "What, you want to kill me? Frankly, you're clueless." Uchiha Ci suddenly opened his eyes, revealing cold, dark magatama swirling in his scarlet eyes. He said with a disdainful look, "Under these eyes, I see everything you're planning." Faced with such over-the-top theatrics, far surpassing anything seen in the ninja world for another 10 years, the evil god cult elites couldn't help but grimace. The leader of the cult elite raised his hand and snapped at Uchiha Ci, "Kill him." With those words, the killing intent was clear. The 12 cult members split into 3 teams. A group of 4 rushed forward, wielding dark spears and attacking Uchiha Ci. The 6 in the second team stood their ground, weaving hand seals, preparing to unleash ninjutsu. Two people from the third team drew the evil god cult's secret symbol of a triangle in a circle on the spot, and black lines gradually appeared on their faces, waiting, right now. Uchiha Ci only had time to grab about half of the 12 ninja tool pouches from the ground. Stuff them into 2 pouches, and hang them on his waist. He had a total of 34 shurikens and 8 cheap kunai, definitely not enough for a standoff, a ninja sword, a katana, and a sleeve containing 40 senbon needles. Seeing the 12 evil god cult elites coming at him, Uchiha took a deep breath and jumped off the city wall. He'd previously faced similar cult elites in the village. Just 3 of them had nearly killed him. Logically, he should fight to the death here, but the situation now was totally different, with the Earth Release and Earth Spear's defenses, plus his knowledge of their tactics. As long as this group didn't have powerful Thunder Release ninjutsu or some other secret technique to counter Earth Spear, they couldn't touch him. If the situation wasn't so urgent, fighting them here and wasting too much chakra would be pointless, and he might get tagged for passively seeking death if he finally met the final boss. So, after achieving his objective of collecting ninja tools, he needed to stick to the plan. Thinking this through, Uchiha immediately leapt. His feet hit the wall, and he slid down to slow his fall. Then he immediately stood upright and ran along the city wall. The wind whistled in his ears, followed by several sharp explosions. He flipped and jumped, throwing 2 shurikens with earth resentment threads and embedding them in the nearby mountain wall. He gripped the threads and yanked them, dodging the 4 jet black spears with extreme agility. At the same time, he held the threads in mid-air and flipped over, gliding to the ground and continuing his escape. This technique of using the terrain for quick movement was the reason Uchiha had risked leaping off the city wall in the first place. How could running be faster than flying? He grinned, almost at the rendezvous point with Terumi-Mei, but, rounding the corner of the mountain wall ahead, the smile on Uchiha Ci's face froze. He hit the brakes, stopping dead in his tracks. His Sharingan eyes were wide with shock, because the 12 evil god cult elites who'd been on the city wall were suddenly in front of him. And there were more of them. 16 cult elites stood lined up, 16 pitch-black spears aimed at him. Chapter 62, Instant Air / Molten River Rock. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 16 black spears flew at him. C's eyes went wide. He squeezed them shut, relying on instinct to sense where the spears would land. Instantly, he channeled Earth Release, layering his body with Earth-style chakra right where he anticipated the impact. Partial hardening. Clang! 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 The heavy spears slammed into Ci, sounding like metal on stone. While the spears didn't pierce him, the force drove his feet through the dirt, carving a 2-meter-long trench as he was pushed backward. Ci opened his eyes, a slight frown creasing his brow. TCH, I blocked the force, but... Earth Release, Earth Spear, a quick B-rank ninjutsu known for its extreme defense, had its flaws. Hardening his body left him momentarily stiff. Before he could think, the 16 cult members were already drawing their black spears, readying another volley. He heard footsteps behind him. The 12 cultists from the city wall had circled around, trapping him on the small patch between the cave entrance and the wall. The terrain was too tight to use his threads for a speed boost. He'd have to charge head-on, but why were those 12 already here? Shadow clones, or a transformation? Ci frowned, focusing his gaze on the 16 ahead. His second Tomo Sharingan granted him sharp observation. A closer look revealed the truth. The chakra flow of the 12 behind him was normal, nothing out of place, but among the 16 in front, 12 were veiled with a thin layer of chakra, a telltale sign of transformation jutsu. To confirm, he glanced at them, activating Heart Steel subtitles. Sure enough, the display pinged with 28 hostile readings for the cult members, 28 real enemies, plus, a crowd on the city wall. Ci sucked in a breath, a chill running down his spine. This wasn't normal. How could a small cult grow so fast, so strong? In the Land of Rain, besides the major powers, only one group could amass this many ninjas so quickly, the village that forgot the war. Amigakure, had the cult poached rogue ninja from Amigakure? But in the original timeline, only Haydn was a member of the cult. Ci narrowed his eyes, taking another deep breath. He couldn't dwell on these mysteries. He needed a plan, fast. Surrounded on both sides, a purely defensive strategy would get him nowhere. He'd never reach the boss, never get his shot at glory. If he wanted to break through, he had to charge forward, no matter the cost. He couldn't risk using Earth Spear and getting locked in place. That meant, he had to gamble. Determination hardened C's eyes as he drew his katana. He could slash mid-run, deflect projectiles. He'd seen it before. Yasuo's trademark move, like the great elder Setsuna Uchiha sword that night in the Land of Rain, that crescent moon arc. Instantly, Ci formed a battle plan, simple, no frills, all in. He was betting he could master that legendary sword technique, undocumented by the Sharingan, in a split second. Win, and he'd tear through the enemy line, charging into the boss room for a one-on-one duel. Lose, and he'd be crying all the way to the grave. He shifted his stance, closed his eyes, and gripped the katana with both hands, letting the tip drag against the ground, slowly carving a path forward. The world seemed to dissolve. He was back in that night, the three-man squad silently circling a campfire, only this time, he was in Setsuna Uchiha's place. He watched the two brats bicker, and in that peak moment of tension, he gripped the knife behind his back. Draw, step, slash. Shake. Ci crouched low and exploded forward, sword first. Thwack. 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 16 black spears cut through the air, bridging 50 meters, and detonating with violent force. Ci snapped his eyes open, twin tomo whirling in his pupils. He leaped, slashing down in an instinctive, overpowering strike. The blade met a spear, flipping him into a somersault. Clang. Sparks flew. Ci's hands were numb. A strange sensation coursed through him, but it wasn't quite right. The faint arc of energy flickered and died. The chakra distribution on the blade was off. Landing, he instinctively rolled, dodging 7 or 8 more spears. The spears stuck in the dirt, and Ci leveraged the hilt, leaping to his feet and charging forward again. The 12 cultists were in position behind him. Ci felt a tingle on the back of his neck and ducked. A gust of wind style wind blade zipped past. Then a barrage of ninjutsu and spears rained down. Ci gritted his teeth and hurled for shuriken. The shuriken's thread snagged on a black spear, opening a gap for him to roll through. The cult leader narrowed his eyes and barked an order. Fire. 2 rounds in a row, that he drew his own spear, focusing lightning chakra around the tip, prepared to deal a fatal blow. As he gave the order, spears rained down on Ci, 2 volleys in rapid succession. Ci narrowed his eyes, leaning into the onslaught. Gripping the hilt of the blade with both hands, chakra flowed from his body through the sword, illuminating the blade with a crescent moon glow. Draw, step, slash. Again. A message flashed across his vision. You have mastered Uchiha style, Setsuna Sky slash, introduction, B rank, dot. Then, behind the cult members, a girl with long brown-red hair appeared on the city wall, jumped down, and weaved hand signs with silky smooth motions. Ox hairborn monkey rat bird. Yotan, yokai no jutsu. Then, she finished the final seal and slammed her hand on the ground, her childish voice clear as a bell. Earth release, split earth turning palm. The ground tore open, and molten earth erupted from the starting position of her hand to the feet of the members of the cult. The earth and rock were lifted up by the fierce current below. A geyser of white smoke and corrosive lava burst forth. Chapter 63, Sneaking into the Fog, Thousands of Snakes Catching Sparrows, Revised. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The ground buckled and split, massive cracks and rivers of molten rock swallowed nearly half the cultists in an instant, vaporizing them without a scream. The surviving elite cultists scrambled to teleport away, regrouping just outside the blast radius. Uchiha Ci seized the opening, swinging his sword in a flash. Uchiha style, instant slash. The blade arced like moonlight, slicing through 6 spears, 3 fireballs, and a wind blade in a heartbeat. But as he went for the 7th spear, his sword snapped. Even so, he'd bought them enough time. Uchiha tilted his head, dodging the last spear aimed at his face. Then, without a second thought about taking on 16 elites, he bolted. Terumi May saw him coming and immediately began weaving hand signs. Bordogox hair. Water release, hiding mist technique. She spat, and thick fog billowed out, instantly blinding the cultists. Terumi May's mist technique was even better than Zabuza's would be later, good enough to buy time against someone like Madara. What is this? I can't see a thing. It's the Mist Village. How did they find us? Have we been exposed? The cult leader frowned, lowering his lightning spear. Hold your positions. He roared. Wind release users, clear the fog. Everyone else, guard the cave entrance. Don't let them get inside. The fog spread quickly, blanketing half the castle. Sunlight filtered through it, turning the castle into a dreamlike landscape tinged with gold. Even with the Sharingan, Uchiha Ci's vision was limited. Suddenly, a hand gripped his wrist, pulling him away. Let's go. Terumi Mei said, pulling him toward the castle. I found where they're holding Haiden. Besides, this is worse than we thought, she continued. More cultists are gathering outside, and we're being followed by 3 teams led by a Jonin from Hidden Grass Village. And he's not wearing a headband showing he's a rogue ninja. This is messed up. Are they the evil god cult or Hidden Grass ninjas? Uchiha frowned, but couldn't make sense of it. He shook his head. Let's stick to the plan. In the thick fog, they scaled the inner wall of the castle, finally shaking off their pursuers and reaching their objective. But, someone unexpected, was waiting for them at the top. The figure wore a strange uniform with a purple sash, long black hair, golden snake eyes, purple makeup extending to his nose, pale skin, and blue comma-shaped earrings completed the look. Seeing them climb over the wall, he chuckled. Well, he rasped. A mist ninja with an Uchiha. How interesting. Uchiha Ci and Terumi Mei's eyes widened. It was one of the legendary Sannin, Orochimaru. Orochimaru smiled, but his eyes were cold as ice. He slowly crept toward them, like a snake ready to strike. An invisible wave of killing intent rolled out. Uchiha Ci frowned, but quickly regained his composure. Judging by the timeline, after the Second Shinobi World War, Orochimaru had witnessed the deaths of Tsunade's brother, Nawaki, and Dan Kato. He'd seen firsthand how fragile life was. He craved immortality. He'd already infiltrated Konoha's forbidden archives, poring over countless forbidden techniques. He was finding his path. Living corpse reincarnation was key, but it required Shinnong's forbidden art, physical transmutation, to perfect his super regeneration technique. Besides, no hate subtitles popped up. Orochimaru wasn't particularly interested in him. His target was Shinnong. Orochimaru glanced at them coldly, not caring why an Uchiha was there. Everyone knew the Uchiha took outside jobs to support their families, like guarding Hell Valley in the Land of Rain, but this Uchiha kid was cozying up with a mist ninja. It was curious, he had other concerns at the moment. Cutting to the chase, he fixed his gaze on Uchiha Ci and asked, I have intel that a doctor is following you. Hat, gray hair, yellow coat. Tell me where he is. Uchiha knew he'd never betray Shinnong. He stared back at Orochimaru, sneering, no idea. As a former second-in-command of Root, Orochimaru was always going to be on the opposite side, and if Orochimaru attacked him now, it would likely be dismissed as a whim. The guy was moody, bloodthirsty, and obsessed with his research. Nobody would bat an eye if he decided to snag an Uchiha for an experiment, so Uchiha Ci wasn't afraid. He had medical insurance. Damn it, Orochimaru narrowed his eyes. Dangerous sparks flickering in his golden pupils. Orochimaru thinks you are courting death. Really? He sneered, flicking his long tongue across his lips. I hope you'll be so stubborn later. Uchiha shook his head, smiling slightly, and activated his Sharingan. I've always preferred the hard way. What's wrong, Orochimaru? Gonna attack me? The atmosphere thickened, a spark of tension hung in the air, ready to explode. Orochimaru's smile chilled, seeing that Uchiha dared to call him by his first name, without the honorific suffix, Sama. His golden eyes were completely cold. He stared at Uchiha Ci like he was already a corpse. Orochimaru wants to cut open your brain and study it. This chapter has been revised. The plot of the evil god religion is a bit long. The points about brushing mobs and improving the skill mechanism are a bit unclear, so we need to speed up the progress. If you have any opinions, you can come to the group and give them to me. I will definitely change whatever I can, but now I don't get any feedback every day, and my hands are shaking when I write. Sad, please give me a follow-up reading. Chapter 64 Skylark Fights Snake, Zero Tail Scroll. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The fog was a thick blanket, so dense you couldn't see your own hand in front of your face. On the city wall, shrouded in mist, the two sides stood poised, a tense standoff. Terumi May, surprised, turned to Uchiha Ci, her eyes widening slightly. Their opponent was Orochimaru, one of the legendary Sannin. Even she felt a shiver run down her spine from the faint, yet palpable, murderous intent radiating from him. Uchiha Ci, however, seemed utterly unfazed, even daring to retort with a chilling tone, "Did this kid know no fear?" Ci stared coldly at Orochimaru, his left hand instinctively hovering over his ninja pouch, the fingertips of his right hand gradually darkening. Before his system was fully realized, Orochimaru had largely followed in the footsteps of his mentor, Hiruzen Sarutobi, focusing on teaching ninjutsu. Unlike the later, practically unkillable Orochimaru, this version was vulnerable. Could he win? Almost certainly not, but would Uchiha Ci back down from a fight? Absolutely not. "Heh, interesting," Orochimaru said, looking down at Uchiha Ci with a chilling gaze. He began to raise his palm, preparing his hidden shadow snake hands technique, but then, Orochimaru abruptly turned his head, glancing toward the cliff outside the castle. A massive boulder suddenly burst through the fog, hurtling straight for Orochimaru's head. His pupils shrunk in alarm, and he quickly summoned his hidden shadow snake hands. 8 giant snakes coiled around the boulder, trying to halt its deadly momentum, but an even larger boulder came crashing down the next moment. The second boulder slammed into the first, adding momentum and overpowering the snakes, crushing Orochimaru's defense. The combined force sent him hurtling to the ground. His face was contorted, limbs snapped, crushed into a meat pie. Orochimaru, one of the Sannin, just died like that. Terumi May stared in disbelief, her jaw dropped, looking at the mangled remains of Orochimaru. No one could survive that kind of damage, right? "He's not that easy to kill," Uchiha Ci frowned, instinctively pulling Terumi May back a couple of steps. Sure enough, a moment later, a pair of hands burst out from the pulverized remains of Orochimaru. He forced open the mangled mouth and crawled out, covered in slime. Dodging the net but not falling into it. Orochimaru squinted at the hole blasted through the fog by the boulders. What a wary bird. At the edge of the hole, Shinnon, clad in a yellow coat, stood impassively, staring down at Orochimaru. With a swift movement, he ripped open his coat, revealing a pair of massive, powerful pectorals that seemed to flex independently. Then, he crooked a finger at Orochimaru, a clear provocation. The swirling mist quickly filled in the gap, obscuring the scene. "Those root guys are just garbage," Orochimaru muttered to himself, licking the corner of his lips, his eyes like ice. "Looks like I'll have to handle this personally." He turned his gaze back to Uchiha Ci, a chilling smile playing on his lips, saying nothing but conveying everything. Then, he leaped from the city wall, bit his thumb mid-air, and slammed his hand to the ground. A wave of thick white mist billowed outwards. An enormous purple snake, its neck as thick as a house, reared its head, towering above the city wall. Its gigantic shadow fell, blotting out the sun. Underneath the monstrosity, both Uchiha Ci and Terumi May involuntarily swallowed hard. Looking at it, Ci suddenly recalled a saying, "Bigger is better." For the first time, the saying resonated with him. With a hiss, Manda, the giant snake, carried Orochimaru into the fog and vanished in an instant, reminding Uchiha Ci of a scene from the mist. A gigantic, terrifying shape loomed in the fog, inspiring indescribable fear. A moment later, a deafening roar echoed from the distance. Accompanied by the anguished hiss of the snake, fire and wind shot into the sky. A violent storm raged in the distance, and the aftermath alone was enough to disperse the white fog around the castle, far better than the efforts of the evil god cult members below. Uchiha Ci could now see a huge, red sigil rising. Countless dense, gray pythons shot into the sky, swarming around a figure engulfed in a scion-like aura. Secret technique, formation of 10,000 snakes. This was a true battle between Kage-level experts. Uchiha Ci felt his blood surging, his body itching for a fight. He wanted to go find someone to punch. Terumi May stood beside him, her eyebrows furrowed, her fists clenched. Such a battle, such power, such a dominating presence on the battlefield. It was intoxicating. Someday, she would become that strong, she would stand on the world stage, sweep away the darkness of Kirigakure, and lead Mizukichi to greatness. But then, thump, a figure landed behind them, both immediately tensed, whirling around to face the newcomer. They both stared. It was the one who was currently in the middle of the life-or-death battle with Orochimaru. Shinnong. Surprised? Shinnong looked at Uchiha Ci's shocked expression and said calmly. This is a shadow clone. Insurance, of sorts. Hearing the word insurance, Uchiha Ci pricked up his ears. He thought to himself, this geezer is selling insurance now too. He frowned and stared up at Shinnong. Insurance? What are you talking about? Shinnong's expression turned cold. He glared at Uchiha Ci and sneered. Secretly learning and stealing other people's jutsu in the ninja world leads to hatred and intense revenge that can destroy families and villages. Every single jutsu is a treasure, even a C rank. Yet you dared to secretly learn my S rank forbidden technique right in front of me. Are you really that stupid? He snorted. If you hadn't jumped down to fight, I would have killed you on that cliff. If you die under this city wall, I'll retrieve your body and dissect it. If you reveal my information to Orochimaru, I'll kill you here, too. What? Uchiha Ci sputtered. He'd missed so many precious opportunities to get beaten to a pulp. Shinnong shook his head at Uchiha Ci's expression, slightly speechless. You really are a hot-blooded, single-minded idiot. Then, he sighed, pulled a yellow scroll from the inner pocket of his yellow coat, and tossed it to Uchiha Ci. Take it. If you can't stay in Uchiha any longer, come find me at the old site of Kong Ninja Village. It's only for you. Uchiha Ci caught the scroll. The scroll's cover was filled with strange seals he couldn't decipher. Shinnong's words didn't make sense either. Uchiha Ci stared at him. Wait, what is this? What are you even talking about? A solemn expression washed over Shinnong's face. He took a deep breath and said darkly. This is the ultimate power in the ninja world. The link to all hate and hatred. A horror that devours the human heart and reveals the deepest, darkest desires. Dark Chakra. The Zero Tail. Chapter 64 has been revised. You can see it by refreshing the bookshelf. Chapter 65, Thousands of Blood Knots, Bravely Draw the Gun. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Tick-tock, 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 an elite member of the cult rushed into the underground chamber, immediately dropping to one knee. Like a ninja reporting to his commander, he blurted out, Monitor, Lord Bishop. We've lost track of the kid who fought Kakuzu. He might have broken into headquarters. He's with a female ninja from Kirigakure. She uses their hidden mist technique and has a powerful bloodline ability. She's going to be a handful. The bishop shook his head, gazing up at the cave ceiling. With the defenses we have at the entrance, we should be fine unless someone on the level of the Sannin attacks. But. The cultist hesitated, then gritted his teeth. Orochimaru, one of the Sannin, just showed up outside. The giant snake he summoned crushed a bunch of our guys. The bishop said nothing. After a couple of deep breaths, his face darkened. How many are dead? He asked, his voice like ice. The cultist licked his lips. Over 20 elites. Almost half our strength. The bishop closed his eyes, his breathing getting faster. He muttered, not again. Not again. This sudden disaster, this humiliating defeat, he snapped open bloodshot eyes, a flicker of bitter hatred within them. His jaw clenched as he gripped a dark spear hidden under his robe, the tip piercing his palm. Blood dripped to the floor, but the pain seemed to clear his head. His face went blank, and he calmly ordered, tell those guarding the front to stay put. Don't worry about this. It'll be over soon. The cultist spoke anxiously, but Lord Bishop, those two kids might sneak into the castle above. They could use Earth style to tunnel into the cave. Doesn't matter. The bishop shook his head. The girl from Kirigakure is probably connected to the Kiri ninja healing in the castle. She'll leave once she finds what she's looking for. If she goes deeper, someone else will take care of her. He tilted his head back, a cruel smile spreading across his face. We're just bugs living in this cave. The real owner of this place won't let anyone pry into his secrets. Heh heh. As for the other brat. The bishop glanced at the cross in the center of the blood pool, where Haydn hung, nailed in place. Haydn, is this your new buddy? Whatever. Let him witness the evil god's birth with us. I've already sacrificed family, friends, and colleagues for favor, for attention, for pain. Maybe having more friends will make it more fun, huh? Understood. The cultist lowered his head. I'll take my leave, then. Hold on. The bishop spun around, eyes narrowed, and stared at him coldly. Your name's Fong Zisuk, right? You're the only one in this group who hasn't done the initiation ceremony, isn't that right? Yes, sir. Fong Zisuk bowed even lower. Then let's take care of that. The bishop gave a kind smile, like a friendly adult, and pulled out a test tube. Just cut your finger, put a drop of blood in the bottle, and you're done. Easy peasy. Go on. Fong Zisuk stared at the test tube, swallowed hard, and his eyes widened in fear. He jumped back, drawing a short sword, teeth gritted, eyes narrowed, he screamed and stabbed the bishop in the chest. You evil bastard. You've gone insane. You want to sacrifice everyone to create a monster. Go to hell. The blade plunged into the bishop's chest, piercing his heart. Blood poured out, the bishop sighed, unfazed. He leaned in close to Fong Zisuk's ear and asked calmly, Fong Zisuk, had enough? Meanwhile, above on the castle wall. Wait, why are you giving me this? Uchiha Ci looked at Shinnong, baffled. He'd just been handed a scroll containing Shinnong's research on the incomplete Zero Tails chakra. Uchiha Ci felt like he was holding a hot potato. He almost dropped it. He stared at Shinnong, wanting to grab him by the collar and shake him, screaming, I'm strong enough already. Why are you giving me a cheat code? Why? Shinnong scoffed, then he yelled, you idiot. You have no idea how far behind you are. Your basic ninjutsu, taijutsu, swordsmanship, everything. Even your chakra level. None of it measures up to a true jonin. You're just using your imagination to combine your limited abilities into something unique. After thoroughly insulting Uchiha, Shinnong said gravely, but once they figure out your abilities and find ways to counter them, you're dead. He was right. Uchiha Ci's abilities were built on the powers that already existed in the ninja world. So, there'd always be a way to counter them. Ninja battles are intelligence battles, like Kakuzu. Once he understood what Uchiha Ci could do, he avoided a head-on fight and naturally won. Uchiha Ci's brow furrowed, sweat trickling down his back. Shinnong reminded him way too much of the old man. Setsuna Uchiha, what's wrong with these guys? You're out fighting Orochimaru and then you bring me this scroll at night. Uchiha sighed. Shinnong, why do you care if I live or die? Shinnong's eyes flickered, and he chuckled humorlessly, then he said, because I want to see it too. This world is full of despair. It's like someone standing on it, screaming and crying, ha ha ha. Don't you find that interesting? He raised his eyebrows and inhaled deeply, then he smacked Uchiha Ci on the forehead. Kid. If you want to be a hero, then go ahead and do it. Don't hesitate. Childhood dreams will turn into regrets as you get older. The shining dream will fade due to the ruthless blow of reality. If you've got a fire in your heart, burn it. Roar, and fight. Don't leave yourself any regrets. Even if it kills you. Shinnong's face was heavy, weighted down by something Uchiha couldn't see. He looked at the horizon as if he could see a home he could never return to. He sighed sadly. Because that kind of guilt will haunt you for the rest of your life. He shook his head, taking a couple of steps. He lifted the massive tower beside him with one hand, boom. As easy as throwing a javelin, then, he swung it and leaped into the distance, flying an incredible distance, shaking the ground far away. A savage grin spread across Shinnong's face. Orochimaru, you destroyed my home, and you want my jutsu, right? Then let's start round 2. Chapter 66 Cut off the bonds, reign in the city. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The crumbling city wall stood before them, they stared, dazed. As Shinnon jumped away, Uchiha took a deep breath. He glanced at the scroll containing the Zero Tail's dark chakra in his hand and stuffed it into his leggings. The Zero Tail, a collection of dark chakra, was a naturally occurring power in the ninja world, aside from the 9-tailed beasts. The darker the heart of the person who used it, the more powerful it became. After acquiring the scroll, Uchiha Ci felt a weight in his chest. He couldn't understand why he, who had tried to off himself under the guise of righteousness, would receive such a precious gift. It was a reminder, although his current motivations were skewed, his actions were similar to those of a hot-blooded manga protagonist. Committing suicide should be easy. But it came with the protagonist's baggage. What's with the random old dude showing up to help at critical moments? This was wrong. His true intention was not to involve anyone, not to change any major plot points, but to be alone in the ninja war, find a suitable opportunity, face a powerful enemy, and get killed. Where did he go wrong? Uchiha frowned, sensing things were complicated. Let's go. What are you doing? Seeing his thoughtful expression, Tsurumi waved a hand in front of his face and gently urged him. Uchiha frowned, his suspicious eyes landing on the girl. Then it hit him, the problem was this girl who looked cute but was actually a pain in the butt. She insisted on following him, brought Haiden and Shinnon along, and created this ridiculous team. Women just mess with a guy's suicide plan. Hold up. Uchiha Ci's face darkened. He waved her hand away, his eyes full of complexity as he looked at her. He asked coldly, I remember you said you were looking for someone important to you and your village, right? Tsurumi was taken aback. That's right. She bore the responsibility of Kirigakure village on her shoulders. She had to find the leader her people hoped for. That was why she was in U country. Uchiha Ci stared at her, his eyes questioning. I remember you said on the cliff that if I could create an opening, you could find the information you needed and Haiden's location. So, did you find it? Tsurumi felt increasingly uneasy under Uchiha's cold gaze. She frowned and explained, I found Haiden's location. Let's go now. Don't worry about it. That's not what I asked. Before she could finish, Uchiha interrupted her. I'm asking, did you find the information you wanted? Tsurumi felt her heart sink. Uchiha's words ripped her from the ninja adventure game, where justice triumphed over evil, and dragged her back to reality. She paused, bit her lip, and silently nodded. I found it. Uchiha nodded. In that case, you have no reason to keep going, right? He stared at her. The indifference and suspicion in his voice were like tying her to a chair for torture. You got what you wanted. In exchange, I just need you to use melt release to open a hole here so I can dive down. Then, stay out of my way. Got it? Tsurumi looked up, shocked, her green eyes widening slightly. Wait, Ci, didn't we agree to rescue Haiden? He's one of us. Uchiha Ci cut her off. Too loud, he looked at her, sneered, and asked with surprise and disdain, this team is weird enough as it is, and now it's even weirder. You're a ninja from Kirigakure village, one of the people causing chaos in this country, and you're feeling sorry for some punk from you? Who are you feeling sorry for? What can you even do other than freeze up when facing an enemy? If you had been more decisive, we wouldn't have run into Kakuzu. If you had escaped immediately with everyone else, Kakuzu wouldn't have captured Haiden. Every choice you make is the wrong one. You're clueless. How can I trust you? Every word chipped away at Tsurumi's illusions. Her expression darkened, she lifted her head, and her gaze grew colder. Uchiha Ci. What do you think we've been through together? Hearing this, Tsurumi clenched her fists and glared at Uchiha Ci. As a Kirigakure ninja, trained from childhood that ninjas are tools, this brief period had been a completely new experience for her. This kind of sincere exchange, trusting each other completely, was shattered by Uchiha Ci. Uchiha's tone was indifferent. He raised his eyebrows. Maybe it was just a transaction, that he looked at Terumi coldly. That's all it was. If you keep following me, you'll just get in the way. Choose. Do you leave after completing this deal, or do you turn around now? You got what you wanted, right? Or are you, a big-boobed airhead, too offended to accept these harsh words, and want to kill me right here? Uchiha Ci chuckled. I wouldn't be surprised if a ninja from the Blood Mist village made that choice. He activated his Sharingan and stared at Terumi with cold, scarlet eyes, waiting for her decision. Terumi took a few deep breaths, then raised cold green eyes, a hint of anger rising within them. After holding her hands tightly and remaining silent for a moment, she finally exhaled and gritted her teeth. If you insist on saying everything before was just a transaction, then so be it. I'll open the passage, and then let you jump to your death. I don't care about you anymore. Hearing this, Uchiha Ci laughed. That's for the best. Since coming to this world, Uchiha Ci had been playing a lonely game of death. All he had to do was keep his head down and run. Just cut off this meaningless bond. It would be nice to live up to this expectation. It didn't matter. It didn't matter at all. Human connection only dulled his senses and slowed him down. Uchiha resigned at that moment. He had seen his true heart in his own path. Dark clouds covered the sky above the castle, and a light rain began to fall. Realizing this, he and Terumi walked silently toward the center of the castle. They didn't exchange words. Finally, they stood before the castle gate. Chapter 67 Madara's Gaze, Ghost Lamp Full Moon. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Deeper inside the evil god cult's underground cave, a faint buzzing sound filled the air. Slow footsteps and the tap of a cane echoed in the darkness. A torch flickered on the wall, illuminating the face of an old man with long gray hair and a weathered face. He wore a dark blue robe and gripped a wooden staff with both hands, looking frail and weak. But when he slightly opened his eyes, a pair of incredibly sinister, cold Sharingan eyes, each marked with 3 tomo, blazed from the depths of their sockets. This was Shura, the ninja once legendary throughout the ninja world, Uchiha Madara. Even his name alone represented unmatched power. Madara casually found a square rock and slowly lowered himself onto it. Soon, heavy, deliberate footsteps broke the silence again. An older man with a handsome face, long gray hair, and a blue beaded ornament on his head shuffled into view, his eyes habitually closed. A blue hat marked with the character for water identified him instantly as the third Mizukage, the most enigmatic of all the Kage. He had served alongside the first Mizukage and attended the inaugural 5 Kage summit. As the successor of the first, he was a major figure in his time. He dragged a mummy-like figure wrapped tightly in bandages and tossed it unceremoniously in front of Madara. After a moment of silence, he said calmly, "Madara, the three-tailed Jinchuriki is here." Madara didn't answer. He simply extended his palm and placed it on the sealed form of the Three Tails host. An immense surge of chakra was extracted by Madara, flowing into his body, along his meridians, into the earth's ley lines, and ultimately, rushing toward the distant demonic statue of the outer path in the Frost Country. Finally, it was converted into pure life force and fed back into Madara's body, invigorating him. After a moment, Madara slowly looked up at the third Mizukage and said coldly, "You're a little early this time." The third Mizukage shook his head and explained his purpose directly. "Yagura figured out that I was regularly taking the three-tailed Jinchuriki out of the village. Madara, I need you to help me control Yagura. Because of that mess ghost-like genjutsu stirred up, Iwagakure will soon be at war with Kirigakure. We can't allow Yagura's organization to run wild right now. They're likely to do something incredibly dangerous." "Humph," Madara scoffed. "Are you scared now? This is all your own doing. It's only natural for a mediocre leader without any real talent to face the consequences for clinging to that position." The third Mizukage didn't respond, just stared at Madara coldly. "So, Madara, what's your answer?" That he knew he lacked talent. At the first 5 Kage summit, all the guards who accompanied the first-generation Kage became the second-generation Kage in their respective villages. He was the only one suppressed by Ghost Lamp Genjutsu, who ended up becoming the third Mizukage after his death. Without talent, he could only rely on the power of the man before him to enforce oppressive policies in Kirigakure and suppress all opposition. It was nothing more than a cold exchange of interests. Madara raised his head slightly, his Sharingan eyes opening to glance at the third Mizukage. "Are you threatening me?" Alarm bells rang in the Mizukage's head, and he squeezed his eyes even tighter. A giant blue hand materialized, seizing him and squeezing, forcing his eyes open. He was met with a pair of chilling scarlet eyes, Genjutsu, Sharingan. The third Mizukage's pupils constricted, turning scarlet. The three tomo spun slightly and faded away. He knelt before Madara like a puppet on strings, ready to do his bidding. "Just gravel," Madara said with disdain. "Not even half as good as me." He controlled Susanu's giant hand to slam the Mizukage into the wall. Just then, a pale figure wrapped in pitcher plant slithered from the cave wall and said excitedly, "Lord Madara, it seems something interesting is happening up above. Including an Uchiha kid of interest. Want to go take a look?" Madara raised his eyebrows slightly and stood from the rock, leaning on his cane. "Oh. Then let's go." Above ground, the castle doors stood wide open, as if inviting guests. Uchiha stood at the entrance, a frown creasing his brow as the hairs on his neck prickled. He had a bad feeling about this. "Don't worry, I checked, and there's no chakra reaction inside," Terumi Mei said coolly, pointing to a circular patch of reeds in the center of the castle hall. "If you use melt release to corrode a hole here, there will be a huge space in the underground cave below. Haiden should be there." Uchiha nodded silently and followed Mei Terumi. Castles like this, built for lords, were typically used for formal gatherings. The first thing you would see would be a stone arch dome supported by 8 stone pillars, adorned with brightly colored glass that filtered light into the hall. Stone sculptures, red carpets, murals, everything looked magnificent, a stark contrast to the refugee shacks outside that barely provided shelter from the elements, but, just as they stepped onto the red carpet, the doors slammed shut with a loud creak. 6 figures dropped from the dome above, all wearing the uniforms of Kirigakure's Hunternin squads, their faces hidden behind 4 water pattern masks that looked almost compassionate. Cold gazes pierced through the eye holes of the masks, falling upon them indifferently. 5 of the figures began weaving hand seals. A thick black rain cloud formed instantly above the dome, and thin raindrops began to fall. The leader of the 6, a white-haired, masked ninja with purple eyes, slowly drew a long sword from his waist and said, "Terumi Mei, you aren't one of Kiryu's people. There's no need to die for this. Tell me the truth. Where's Goju Yagura?" Hearing the voice and seeing the figure, Terumi Mei's pupils shrank. Her expression turned grim. "I don't know how this guy got here." She quickly turned to Uchiha and whispered, "Get out of here. You can't take him on." Uchiha's eyes narrowed as he surveyed the 6 figures before him, focusing on their leader. White hair, purple eyes, such hair color and features were rare in the ninja world, immediately reminding him of Kitten Suigetsu, a member of the future Hawk team. And the opponent was a Kirigakure ninja. The man's identity was as obvious as Hitaki Kakashi wearing a Konoha Anbu mask. It was the so-called prodigy from Kirigakure who could perfectly wield the 7 ninja swords and possessed the 7 ninja sword psychic secret scroll, Ghost Lantern Full Moon. Chapter 68. I stand on a major juncture in history. You are listening at novelfull.audio. What stood before him was Ghost Lantern Full Moon himself. Uchiha Ci's eyes narrowed instantly. It wasn't because of the guy's overwhelming power, he only knew him from his brother. The Ghost, Full Moon could wield Ghost Light and Suigetsu's water release skills, probably even those Suigetsu didn't know, water transformation technique, high water arm technique, water iron cannon technique, black hat, hell, even the second Mizukage's oil transformation, steam imp, mirage, summoning jutsu, giant clam, magic, steam dome. The whole 9 yards, plus, this wasn't the future 4th Shinobi World War, the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist were all accounted for, that meant this dude probably had all 7 chakra conductive swords. Offense, defense, endurance, genjutsu, stats maxed out. He could practically pilot a Gundam. A true all-around threat, even though this guy looked a few years older than CI, his tactical game was already set, and he had the power of a Kage on paper. He definitely lived up to his rep as a child prodigy. But was that what scared Uchiha Ci? Nah. Even if Kakuzu showed up, Ci would throw down. This was just a souped-up suigetsu, nothing to sweat. What made Ci's spidey sense tingle was who this guy was now, Ghost Lantern Full Moon, a chasing ninja. The Mist was a village with a death grip on everything. Every position had strict rules and hierarchy. Chasing ninjas were basically Mizuki's attack dogs, hunting down any ninja who tried to ditch the village under Mizuki's iron fist. They reported directly to the Mizuki, with a zero-tolerance policy. No prisoners, just total wipeout. The fact that Kido Mangetsu was a chasing ninja flew in the face of everything Uchiha Ci thought he knew, based on Madara's plan in the original, Obito's takeover of the Mist, Zabuza's motivations, and how the Mist viewed Zabuza. You could piece together the major events that happened in the village. Long story short, 3 things. Point 1. The Mist's higher-ups back then were likely in cahoots with old man Uchiha Madara, or completely under his thumb. That's how Madara could easily manipulate the Mist to implant the 3 tails into Noera Rin. 2. The fact that Goju Yagura became one of the only 4 perfect Jinchuriki proves he had a pure heart, and everyone expected him to become the 4th Mizuki. 3. After Obito puppet Yagura, he brought back the blood mist policy. Zabuza Momochi, the demon who followed Yagura to overthrow the old regime, sensed something fishy and launched a coup against his loyal lord. Plus, in the original story, Ghost Light Suigetsu didn't rock a missing Nin headband and wasn't tied to any village. Clearly, he'd been sent out ahead of time. When Gui Deng Suigetsu unsheathed the executioner's blade, his words showed respect for Zabuza and mentioned that, "My brother died trying to realize his dream." That pretty much confirmed it. Zabuza Momochi, the demon of the mist, assassinated the 4th Mizuki, who brought back the blood mist policy, because it was the right thing to do, and the guy pulling the strings. Kido Mangetsu, the mist's prodigy, willing to sacrifice himself for what's right, heir to the twin swords and flatfish. Like Zabuza, he was Yagura's most loyal partner and subordinate, but someone like that, he was here now, as a chasing Nin, asking Terumi May about Yagura's whereabouts. That meant he wasn't on Yagura's side, not yet anyway. Uchiha Ci, being the cautious guy he was, realized it in a flash. This was it. This could be the tipping point, the moment that decided the future of a major power. Whose side was Kido Mangetsu on? The 3rd Mizuki's, or Goju Yagura's? That was probably the key to the Mist's 2 coups. Uchiha Ci, who usually hated messing with the main plot, felt a knot forming in his stomach. Saving Setsuna Uchiha, saving Saikairo Uchiha, those were minor tweaks. Uchiha Ci didn't sweat that stuff. But this was different. The Mist's arc touched Madara's plans, the future of Missouri, whether the Blood Mist coup would even happen, and the looming 3rd Shinobi War. The village was a powder keg. What would the Mist become? And the key to it all? Terumi May, who he brought here. She could have bounced after getting the intel, but now, to give him a shot at saving Haiden, she'd run into Mangetsu, who wasn't on the same team and was still under the 3rd Mizuki's command, the 3rd Mizuki sending chasing ninja after Yagura. That spoke volumes. Chasing ninjas were all about the kill, ruthless, cold-blooded, emotionless. That was their brand. The 2 factions were already locked in. All it needed was a spark to set off the coup. In this dark, chaotic era buried by history, the Mist's calm surface was hiding a tsunami. The curtain was rising. Now, standing in the center of the auditorium, standing on the blood-red carpet, standing on this new path leading to an unknown future, that it felt like he was straddling 2 diverging roads. One led to a throne built on rivers of blood and mountains of corpses, the other led to the almost perfect ending from the original story. Uchiha Ci shivered. He couldn't quite put his finger on it. Excitement? Fear? His heart hammered in his chest. A wave of adrenaline surged from his toes to his scalp, priming his body for a fight. His right fingertips quietly seeped darkness, and his left hand gripped the ninja pouch at his waist. With a flick of his wrist, for shurikens nestled between his fingers, he slowly raised his head, narrowed his eyes, and stared down the 6 people facing him, his expression hardening. Right then, up above, the thick, dark clouds under the dome churned. Cold raindrops began to fall faster and faster, heavier and heavier. It started raining in the castle hall. Uchiha frowned, raised his hand, and looked at his right fingertips. This is water release, severing rain. That the rain pelted the hardened skin of earth release, earth spear, actually weakening its defense by a whole level. To pull off the earth spear, he'd need to burn at least 3 times the chakra, and even then, the rain would keep chipping away at it. Water release, severing rain, a mist specialty, a secret technique to nerf every ninjutsu and chakra except water release. Even Naruto's Rasengan would fizzle out in this stuff. This is going to be tough. Looks like they scoped out my fight on the wall and did their homework. But I can't let Tsurumi Mei die here. Uchiha took a deep breath, ditched the earth release, earth spear idea, and drew his ninja sword with his right hand. His scarlet Sharingan flared to life, 2 tomo spun around his dark pupils, silently analyzing the situation, and then, Ghost Man, you noticed Uchiha Ci's battle stance and glared. His purple eyes flashed with a cold, ruthless intent. Oh. Another Uchiha. That he turned to Tsurumi Mei, who was nervously clenching her fingers, and asked coldly. Taimi Mei. Have you really stooped so low that you need to call in favors from other villages to prop up your little rebellion? That the war is coming, and the story of the evil god cult is about to end. The story behind the Kirigakure at this time will soon be interspersed with the Hell Valley storyline, and finally the plot line of the Third Ninja World War will be opened. Please follow up. Chapter 69, The Assassin Desires Answers. You are listening at novelfull.audio. On the battlefield, Ghost Lantern Full Moon's words echoed in the air. Tsurumi Mei tensed up, glancing nervously at Uchiha Ci. She bit her lip and blurted out, he's not involved in any of this. Does it even matter? Are we really splitting hairs here? Full Moon shook his head, his cold, dead-eyed gaze sweeping over them. You should know what's expected of a hunter-nin. Tsurumi Mei took a deep breath, frowning as she faced him. The hunter-nin were Kirigakure's most ruthless force, tasked with hunting down rogue ninja, and at that moment, they were the last group anyone wanted to cross in the land of water. Full Moon regarded them calmly. I don't know why the third Mizukichi wants Yugura go Takebana, the Jonin leader, dead. But that's how it is in Kirigakure. We're all just tools, pawns in the hands of those above. Our only job is to follow orders. That's why we exist. Hearing this, Tsurumi Mei clenched her fists, shaking her head, her eyes hardening. No. That's just an excuse for the Third's messed up policies. The Ninja Academy's bloodline purification system, the deadly political climate where one wrong word can get you killed, the tool mentality that leads to abandoning teammates for the sake of mission efficiency, and the ruthless, cold-blooded hunter-nin squads. It's all wrong. There has to be a better way for Kirigakure. Full Moon raised his eyebrows, staring at Tsurumi Mei, and asked, so, what's your brilliant solution? How will your so-called righteousness make things any better? But he scoffed, every unfair system you complain about was put in place by the third Mizukichi himself. Yeah, he's the one who's driven Kirigakure to the brink. Full Moon narrowed his purple eyes. But what are you going to do? In this village where everyone's fighting for scraps, what are you going to do when you're in charge? Tsurumi Mei fell silent under his scrutiny, unable to answer. After the second Mizukichi gambled the country's fate on a ninja war with Iwagakure, both sides took huge losses. Kirigakure was already on the decline. The land of water's daimyo had lost faith in the third Mizukichi. Ever since the second Mizukichi's death, he'd become suspicious and indecisive. Worried about a rebellion, he'd been cutting funding year after year, secretly building up his own power within the village. Yagura's Kirisame, and most of the bloodline clan elders in Kirigakure, were gradually gaining influence due to the support of the daimyo. Even though the third Mizukichi's methods were extreme, he'd managed to keep the village united. You could even say that he'd done a decent job with the limited resources available. Too bad. Any sudden change would tear this rotten village apart. All you can do is prop up the system, tell everyone to shut their mouths, pretend you don't see anything, and let it fester. Tsurumi Mei clenched her fists, her trembling hands betraying her inner turmoil. Full Moon gave her a cold glance, then slowly drew his ninja sword. Looks like you don't have an answer. You're just a tool too. a tool for the elders to reach Yagura. A tool doesn't need a mind of its own. As each other's tools, you won't tell me where Yagura is. And I won't stop hunting him down. His dead eyes seemed even colder. He always asked this question before finishing off his target, but no one ever had an answer. In turn, his hands would claim another life of a ninja from the same village. After all, this was a village beyond saving. Why even bother asking such a stupid question? Terumi May watched him slowly draw his sword, her pupils shrinking, her body trembling. As a fellow villager, she'd witnessed Full Moon's power. He was an opponent she couldn't hope to match right now. Compared to her, he was a true prodigy. Still, she couldn't accept having her will dismissed so easily. She clenched her fists, her eyes flashing with defiance, and insisted, there has to be a way to make things better in the mist. Thinking back to something Uchiha had said under the moonlight, she gritted her teeth and said, if you don't try, there's no future. The elders are betting on Yagura for a reason. Full Moon shook his head, her words clearly had no effect on him. Unfortunately, I'm not interested in empty platitudes. As he spoke, he turned into a puddle of water, flowing into the stagnant water on the ground. The next moment, he reappeared behind Terumi May, emerging from a pool of water and slashing at her neck. The blade came so close that Terumi May's eyes widened, unable to react. How is he so fast? She hadn't seen him make any hand signs for the teleportation technique. Clang! Sparks flew everywhere. A pair of scarlet Sharingan eyes flared to life. Uchiha Ci, who had been watching silently, immediately drew his sword and blocked the attack. You idiot, you're so dense. That guy in front of you was a water clone all along. He's been lurking under your feet, using the rain to conceal his water. Uchiha snapped, kicking Terumi May's rear, sending her sprawling. Then, he twisted his blade, his eyes narrowed on the masked Full Moon, and a sinister grin spread across his face. With these eyes, I can see every move you make. What a prodigy. You're just a slimy little trickster. Full Moon remained silent. This tactic was proving effective. First, break down the enemy's defenses with words, then strike without warning. That was the Hunterine way, an assassin's specialty. Full Moon held the sword in one hand, the other swelling like an inflated ball. His muscles bulged, growing to 7 or 8 times their normal size, veins pulsing. The water release, powerful water arm technique activated instantly. He launched himself forward with a punch aimed at Uchiha's smiling face. Boom! Uchiha Ci went flying, but Full Moon frowned, surprised by how rock-solid the boy's face felt. Uchiha Ci. Terumi May felt a sharp kick to her but stumbled from the force, almost falling. She turned to glare at Uchiha, but then, she saw the black shadow hurtling through the air. Fortunately, Uchiha Ci, with his acrobatic skills, quickly righted himself mid-air and landed on his feet. However, the spot where the powerful water arm had connected was swelling. Tui! Spitting out a mouthful of blood, Uchiha raised his chin, sneering at Full Moon. You want an answer, right? Then let me give you one. Here's how to save the land of water. Full Moon thought the punch must have scrambled his brain, turned it into mush. He sneered, a joke, I wouldn't take advice from an Uchiha. He took a heavy step, splashing water, and launched another punch. But the punch halted inches from Uchiha's face. The force of the wind it created ruffled his hair. Uchiha Ci smirked, looking directly at Full Moon, and said with a mocking smile, all that talk, you just wanted someone to tell you the answer you already wanted to hear. You're waiting for someone to give you permission. To begin. Then, he stared intently into Full Moon's eyes with his scarlet Sharingan. The dark tomo swirled. These captivating eyes seemed to peer through the mask, digging into the depths of Full Moon's mind, trying to expose the hidden madness within. Ghost Lantern Full Moon. Uchiha Ci's lips curled into a devilish smile. Aren't you the one who wants to kill the Mizukage most? You, who's sacrificed his life for the tyrant, acting like a tool. So why not act on your deepest desires? Take the first step. Launch a coup and assassinate the third Mizukage. To achieve the future you desire. A ruined land of water that exists only in your imagination. A subtitle flashed in front of Uchiha Ci. Ghost Lantern Full Moon is greatly shocked. feeling like your brain has been gnawed by a dog. In the shadows of the hall, an old man and a pale figure with the expression of someone on the subway staring at their phone watched the battle silently, after hearing Uchiha Ci loudly plotting to assassinate the Mizukage in front of a hunterine loyal to the third Mizukage. Madara Uchiha almost lost his balance. He raised his eyebrows, remained silent for a moment, and glanced sideways at the third Mizukage, who stood behind him like a puppet. Well, that's kind of interesting. Chapter 70 Violent comments attack the heart and reverse murderous intent. You are listening at novelfull.audio. A single word landed like a bombshell. The purple pupils behind the ghost lamp full moon mask narrowed slightly. You think this is some kind of joke, but then his face hardened, anger flared in his eyes, and he slammed a fist into Uchiha Ci's face, boom. But Uchiha Ci just laughed, he'd found a chink in his armor. Uchiha Setsuna, the old man, used similar lines right before he used that forbidden self-destruct technique, because he'd figured out that he just wanted to die. He'd cobbled together a bunch of pseudo-logic to explain Uchiha Ci's actions. It was a complete load of horse manure, linking unrelated stuff together. But the stubborn Uchiha couldn't argue. It was a totally off-the-wall theory built on existing information, and since it's been established that Oni Deng Mangetsu will ultimately choose to follow Yagura to establish a new Kirigakure, and after Yagura is manipulated, he'll boldly follow Zabuza to launch an assassination and carry out a coup. Then, we can use this conclusion to come up with a verbal attack that hits Gue Dang Man Yu where it hurts, shake him to his core and break his will. The outcome might not reflect reality, but if you can hit a nerve, you just might create the perfect chance for Uchiha Ci to turn the tables. And that chance was now. In that split second before the punch landed, Uchiha Ci was ready, his expression twisted into a snarl. He didn't duck or dodge the fist, he met it head-on. With his right hand, he whipped out a needle pouch packed with 1,000 senbon needles from the sleeve on his left wrist. With a flick of his wrist, .16 needles flew from the blind spot, aimed at Ghost Man Yu's heart, eyes, and throat. Uchiha Ci knew that Ghost Lantern Mangetsu, with his hydration ability, could shrug off most physical damage. But only if he could react. Now, the distance was minimal, and Gue Dang Man Yu was enraged by his words. Uchiha Ci also chose such a sneaky shot, undetectable from the blind corner. A guaranteed kill. Hesitate, and you're dead. Time to show off Master Wei's real assassination skills. Clang, you bravely stood up to Gue Dang Man Yu who despised your intelligence. Heart upgrade progress increased, currently, water, 96%. The subtitles flashed, but Uchiha didn't have time to read them. He stared at full moon with burning intensity. Underdog victories might seem like fairy tales, but in the ninja world, anything is possible if you're willing to risk your life. Earth Style, Earth Spear, weakened by the rain-cutting technique, vs Water Style Secret Technique and the Sneak Attack using Water Transformation Technique, both are top-tier defensive techniques in the ninja world, so let's see who's the bigger snake in the grass. Shink. 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 1,000 needles screamed through the air, zeroing in on his vital points. As soon as Gue Dang Man Yu's fist connected with Uchiha Ci's face, he realized he'd messed up. A flash of bright white appeared in his peripheral vision. He instantly knew he was being ambushed by the Uchiha who called him despicable. When Kido Mangetsu realized that the moves he used on Terumi Mei were now being used on him, he felt a surge of frustration and a burning need to curse someone out. Damn it, who's the scoundrel here? Are all Uchihas today so good at cosplay? He didn't have time to think. He immediately activated water release and the hydration technique with everything he had, partially hydrating the area that was about to be hit by Qianbon. Puff, 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 star. Qianbon pierced through the hydrated body and flew towards the dome with undiminished momentum, embedding themselves in the glass ceiling. Even though Ghost Lantern Man Yu had reacted incredibly quickly, under this sneak attack, .4 senbon pierced through the eye holes of his mask. And 2 needles sliced deeply into the mask. Blood gurgled out. Gue Dang Man Yu's left eye was gone. The intense pain forced him to rip off his mask, clutch his eye, and hiss in agony. His remaining eye blazed with terrifying killing intent. Uchiha's eyes widened, realizing he'd screwed up. He'd pushed him too far. he immediately threw a silk shuriken with his backhand, wrapped it around and inserted it into the beam of the hull, scooped up Terumi Mei's slender waist, pulled the silk thread and immediately slid away, widening the distance. After landing, he frowned. The water from water release and Chiyu covered the floor to ankle level. In this enclosed space, any technique other than water release was weakened. His shurikens, earth release ninjutsu, thread cutting, and swordsmanship couldn't inflict any significant damage on the alert demon Mangetsu who possessed the water transformation technique, but the opponent could use the water on the ground to move at high speed and break through his own defense through the technique of powerful water wrist. Under this situation, Uchiha himself could not survive this situation, let alone saving Terumi Mei. If the future 5th Mizukage Terumi Mei died here, at the very least, it was foreseeable that the 4th Mizukage's blood mist policy would probably continue. Kirigakure might remain under the control of the Sharingan. In the future, at the 5 Kage conference on the eve of the 4th Ninja War, Kirigakure might be used as an undercover agent. Prince Ming was already struggling enough to save the world. If another mole stabbed him in the back, who knew what impact it would have on future plotlines and endings? In that case, his death here would be meaningless. At that thought, Uchiha Ci's face darkened. He glared at Terumi Mei, still heartbroken next to him, and cursed. Damn it! Terumi Mei, you're such a waste. What did you say? You idiot! That being snapped at like that snapped Mei Terumi back to reality. She glared back, but when she saw Uchiha's face swollen like a balloon, she almost laughed. Huh? You still have the nerve to look at me like that? Uchiha Ci raised his ninja sword, pointed it at the ghost lamp full moon opposite, and said to her. Now that you're awake, get your butt in gear and fight. This guy's been triggered by my words. Do you even realize what that means? Terumi Mei's eyes widened. Did he just say what she thought he said? Uchiha Ci, that stupid young man, wanted to fight alongside her. Before now, the type of enemy didn't matter to this guy. With a clap of his hands, a barrier was raised to encircle the enemy, separate teammates, and start a 1v1 real man battle like a self-destruction. As if thinking of something funny, Terumi Mei felt a flicker of embarrassment. She quickly straightened her pants, stood up, and looked at the battlefield. Her will to fight reignited, and she began to assess the situation. Uchiha Ci's words had clearly hit a nerve, otherwise, Ghost Light Full Moon wouldn't have reacted so strongly. That also suggested that the other party might indeed be harboring the terrifying idea of gritting his teeth and enduring for years, eager to destroy everything and turn the mist into ruins. This could be an opportunity.